All right, welcome back to uh, the second part of the web development C Sharp. Again, the first part uh, we have looked at about the basic unit testing with the X unit, the third party that we use. Now, the second part of this discussion, we are going to discuss about the Autofac and substitute. Okay, so we are going to, the plan is to create to use the third-party Autofac. What is the Autofac? That's the uh, third party to create the dependency injections. Okay, if you remember, perhaps I need to create a separate default uh, dependency injections from the .NET framework. But then in this example, we are going to look at how to use or how to create the dependency injections builders containers using the Autofac. Okay, so from that, we are going to look at a separate example, how to use NSubstitute to create a mocking. Okay, so once we've discussed each of the individual examples and create a simple explanations of that, we're gonna incorporate those two concepts into a single test. Okay, so we are going to create again a unit testing by using the Autofac and substitute. Okay, so this is the plan. So this is how the standard dependency injections in the .NET framework. Okay, the uh, the standard implementations of that we have got the concrete implementations, which is for instance we have the account, um, and the account actually implements its interface, right? At the same time, if we want to use or we want to um, get the instance of the account, we do not actually create the new account manually. It will go through uh, the dependency injections. Okay, so from the constructor, if we want to get the account, we just need uh, to pass using the interface. Okay, and that's the pattern that we gonna be using that. Okay, the the main reason why we want to pass using the interface because it will be so much easier for us in the future if we want to test uh, this particular class. Okay, we can just easily swap the object around by using the and substitute. Okay, so this is the Autofac. Okay, so there are some NuGet package that we want to add in the um, in this Autofac. So um, we want to add the Autofac. We want to add the extension of dependency injections as well as the and substitute. Okay, so again, this is you can just read through the IOC, the inversion of control. That's a way for us to inject a DI. Okay, okay. So this is a simple example that we are going to look at and we are going to write. Okay, so from this example that we have for the look at, perhaps we can just create one a project. Let's say console. Okay, so we call it console demo in this case. Okay, so we create this. Okay, so now first thing first, if you want to test these implementations, okay, so what you can do, um, perhaps I do not, I'll remove that because I'll be creating two separate uh, program. So let's say uh, this program because I want to get uh, the full implementations of this instead of um, the sh uh, the short declarations. Okay, Okay, so first thing first, what we need to do, we want to install the NuGet package. So we are after the Autofac. Here, use the latest one. And then just double check these. And we want to get the Autofac extensions, dependency injections, also use the latest one. We also want to get the NSubstitute, right? So those three third-party libraries, we need that, okay? So once we've done with those three libraries, okay, so let's start doing some testing, okay? Okay, so we will be reusing our our class library. So what we're gonna be doing, perhaps we want to link our console to our class library here, math utils. Okay, so in the math utils, we know that we have the interface math and we have the interface iMath, and we have the interface the concrete implementations, which is the maths. Okay, so the first question is how to create a standard um, instance of the math, right, without using DI. Okay, so this is what we normally do if we want to create an instance, right? Create an instance. So what we normally do, okay, so we are going to use um, the interface to create that. Okay, math. Okay, so we are going to create this. Okay, so for instance, if we want to write something, okay, I guess we need to using math utils. Yep, that's the one that we after. Perhaps we just use using the math utils. Anyway, since I'm using maths, not maths, should be maths. I think I need to fix that, right? Use S. Okay. Use. Oops. So I don't want to have the conflict with the uh, special characters. So it should be just add using S. Okay, using all of those. Okay, so should be okay of these. Okay, let's go back to the program.cs. Okay, so that's the one that we're after since we've already fixed that one. Okay, maths.plus. Okay, let's add 10 and 10. Okay, reason being we changed this to S because there is a native .NET class with the same name, right? So we don't want to deal with the conflicts on and so forth. So I just change this one to iMaths and maths. Okay. So okay. So um, if we just change the startup project to the console, run it. Okay. So that's 20. Okay. So it's happy. This one, and this is a standard how we create the instance. Okay. In this particular example, we want to achieve the same thing, but without creating this one. The reason being, right? So if we create this type of approach, it's gonna be quite difficult for us in the future if we want to test um, that particular methods, right? So we want to integrate that one using the um, dependency injections. Okay, so there will be like a similar steps that we need to follow, okay, as what the a standard dependency injections workflow. So here is the 3 steps, right? So what we're gonna be doing, we want to create a builder. We want to step 2, we want to register the service, right? The service that we want to register in this case, which is the 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 math. Okay, so that's a service that we want to register. Lastly, we want to construct it and then get the container. Okay, so the option one, okay, So we want to create the builder. Okay. When we create the builder here, we can say container, okay, container builder, okay, builder, container builder, builder, new, container builder, right? So we create the container, create the builder in this case, and then we want to register, right? We want to register by saying register type, okay. We want to register the one that we want to register. um, At first, we perhaps don't worry about the interface first. We just want to register the actual concrete implementations, right? So as self, as its own, okay? So what we are saying here, okay, when we ask for the maths, the concrete implementations, right, we will get the actual instance of maths, okay? So um, step two, that's to register. Okay. Step three, now we want to get the container. Get the container. Okay. How to get the container? What we're gonna be doing? So we will say var container container builder dot build. Okay. So once we've got the container here, and this is how we are going to use. Let's say we are going to say maths. Let's say m. This is how we're going to get, right? So we ask for maths, right? So we ask for this type, the concrete type, and we will get the actual instance of this. Okay. So this is the DI implementations, right? By using the third party, right? So have a look the top part, which is completely different. If we want to get this instance, we have to create our own. The moment that we create our own, you are responsible to dispose that particular instance. In this case, it's different. You ask for it, you actually do not create any instance, so you don't care about how to dispose that. Okay, so let's test the same implementations, right, of this. Right, so you will get the instance by having the same thing. Okay, so if you just say like this, perhaps from m plus, let's say, okay, this is from the Autofac. Okay, so you can have a look in this demo, have a look. Right, so now you know that so it's working fine now. Okay, so everything's happy. Okay, and that's the option one that you can do. Option one, by uh, to use the concrete implementations. Okay, the option two, perhaps this time you can use the actual interface. Okay, the using the concrete. The next part, you can have a look by using the actual interface of this, to use the interface. Okay, so you can just comment out the top part. Okay, so using the same thing, you want to create the builder. Okay, so now whenever you want to register, this time you have three options actually, right? So first, you can say, I want to register this one, right? But it's not like that instance, but I want to register um, as all the implemented interface. Okay, so in this case, any interfaces, right, that you define in the maths. Okay, so we are going to register that. Okay, so for instance, if you want, in this particular example, the uh, Autofac interface, right, perhaps using the same one, let's say 6 plus 6 in this case, right? So the moment this one will throw an error, right? Because you have changed the implementations, right? Now we need to ask, in order for us to get the instance, we have to use the interface, right? But if we use the concrete implementations, let's have a look, it will throw an error, right? Like this, okay? Because it doesn't recognize at all, okay? So what you need to do, you have to ask for the interface since we just implementing only a single interface, right? So when we change that, we have to change this one as well, right? Um, so now if we run this, it will recognize, okay? It's coming from the Autofac interface 12, right? So this is one, right? So if you want to register uh, using all interfaces, okay? You can also register to be more specific, right? So for instance, you can say what sort of interface that you want to implement. Okay, so I just want to implement iMath, right? I just want to register these concrete implementations, but when I call the iMath, then when I call the interface, then I'll get the actual implementations of that, right? So this will work, okay? So what will be the next step? This is the pretty much the overall simple examples of how to use the DI Autofac. Okay. The next question is you will be asking about the lifetime. Okay. So there is no lifetime in these implementations. If you remember, perhaps, and again, I haven't created the uh, a standard .NET dependency injections, but we do have three different life cycle of the object. So the first one is the singleton, second one is a transient, the third one is a scope. Okay, scope within the same request, you will get the same instance. Singleton, um, you have only one instance throughout your cycle. Okay, and the instance per transient, every request that you call, you will get all the new instance. Okay, so in this Autofac, right, so without declaring anything, basically the default one is transient. Okay, what is transient? Every request you'll get new instance. Okay, so if you want to be more specific, right, so you can say instance per dependencies. Right now we're talking about one step further about the life cycle. Okay, so you will not see much difference of that. Okay, but as you know, whenever you design your applications, right, so especially like when we are talking about the data context, db context is a scope service, right? So whenever you need to ask for that db context, it should be in the same scope. Okay, so perhaps in this you can also register as a singleton as well, right? So you can also register as a singleton, which is the single instance. Okay, so this is a singleton. So you will not see much difference about this. Okay, that's the same thing. It's working. And lastly, you can also register as a scope per scope, instance per lifetime scope. Right, so you can also register with this. Whenever you run this, you'll see the same thing. Okay, so that's something that perhaps you need uh, to know. Okay, so the next part. Okay, so once we've done the simple example of these, right, by using the Autofac builder container, right, so that's the a simple example of that. So we can also create, oh, this is the one that we discussed. We also will try to create a simple example of how to use the NSubstitute. Okay, and this is how we create the so let's say uh, and substitute demo. Okay, so in the and substitute demo, in here we are using the same arrangements. Okay, so we are using the same arrangements. If you have a look in here, we are going to create builder, so on and so forth. We are interested in these. Okay, public public star take void main. Okay, so we want to have the similar implementations. Okay, so perhaps we need to fix up the using, right? Using Autofac, and here we want to use the utils. Okay, so here and again we want to um, register this. Okay, but in this case, right? So in this case, once we register the math at itself, we can substitute the actual implementations of that. Okay, so now we can do, let's say, and substitute in here, right? So let's say we want to have the maths substitute. Here we want to say substitute, okay, for what we want to substitute the, let's say this one, whenever we call the imets, right? Whenever we call the imets, we will get this instance, right? So now we want to substitute these implementations, right? So um, this actual instance, right? So you want to substitute this. Okay, now we want to substitute. We have this, okay? So now what we gonna be doing, okay, what we gonna be doing in here, we can say maths substitute plus, okay? So here, this is the substitutions happening, right? So we want to say, if you, let's say, we want to change the actual implementations, right? It's supposed to be the actual implementation whenever you x plus y should be equal 16. But now in this substitute, we want to change the behavior, right? So we change the behavior instead of plus 8 plus 8 equal to 16. Instead, it goes with 20, right? So here we will say, okay, so we will say now, here we want to register the instance, right? So builder dot register instance, right? So we want to register instance, this particular instance, because we want to override the actual behavior, right? So here you declare the substitute uh, instance, right? So and then after that you change the behavior, and then after that you register that particular instance back into this I math, right? So whenever you call these, right? Whenever you call the I maths, okay? So you will get the substitute implementations of the maths, right? Which is the incorrect one in this case, right? So we can prove the concept. Okay, let's say we built, okay, so it goes with 20. Why is 20? Because at some point you have substitute the actual implementations of that, right? And that's the basic of having the and substitute. Okay, by the way, in this particular implementations, right, so you might have you might register many services, right? Whether you have the many concrete implementations, right? So you can implement a lot, right? You have more than one, definitely. Okay, so in this particular example, we can just simplify that particular implementations, right? Instead of having like, register 10 of services, right? So you can just simplify the actual implementations by having the single module, right? So let's say what you're gonna be saying in here, math utils module. Okay, so in this maths util modules, right, you can say public class math utils module. Okay, you can say the Autofac of modules, right? So here you want to override what you want to override. You want to override the load. Okay, so you want to override the load. This is optional, whether you want to use it or not. Basically, if you have a look right inside this, it is empty implementations, right? It is empty implementations, but yeah, that's intentionally there, created from the third party. Okay, so now basically instead of putting all this stuff here, right? So you can just remove this, put inside this one. This is where you register all the services. Okay, so you have the cleaner approach, right? So in this case, so this is where you load. Okay, so from the here, right? So instead of registering each of them manually here, right? So now you can register the module, right? What you are saying, register a module. What's the module that you have? Yes, it's a maths utils modules. Okay, so now if we create this, you'll get the same thing. Okay, so now you have the cleaner approach, right? So you can register all the instances inside here, inside a separate file, and it's your actual program.cs, right? It's cleaner, right? Because you do not actually register each of individual services here. Okay. Okay, so now we've already looked at the Autofac, we've already looked at the substitute. Now, the last part of this, you haven't seen any actual unit test implementations. Okay, so we create a new project, perhaps. We create new projects here. Um, we'll say class library. Class library. We'll say person utils. Okay, so we create the person utils. So here you have the persons, right? So perhaps I'll just copy paste from the existing building. Okay, and you also have the interface. Just to save time, I person. Hang on, I'll be back.